So I think the big catalyst for this piece of work was the acquisition. We were obviously acquired in May last year, and it's such a big moment in our history, and it's a real moment of pause for you to think about, okay, what does this mean for us? What about us, our culture, everything we do we want to keep and that really matters? What do we want to shed that we've kind of, got lost a little bit along the way? And who do we want to be? And that was really what started that thinking around the brand proposition and what do we want to stand up for? What are we great at? What do we want everyone else to know us for? And I think a really big thing for us was all about ownership and making sure that our teams had that opportunity to have that voice and to set that agenda and set that opinion. And that was how our little working group came to be, Dream Team, to talk about the brand proposition.
I think in our defence it was probably something that we wanted to do for years.
Yes.
But we just didn't have that kind of starting point, and the acquisition sort of gave us that bump start, didn't it?
Absolutely.
For me, it was interesting because it's obviously like I haven't been here I've been here a little while, but not like an extended period of time. And I even remember like when I first started, there was always talk about like rebranding, about refreshing, and that like obviously because we've been like a company that has existed for a long time. Even when I started from day dot, there was always that conversation around it. So then when that acquisition came in, it really did just kind of make sense to just be like, let's just scrap it and start again. Because it's also like, boiling down like 40 years worth of work, knowledge, expertise, having a tone of voice, everything, trying to boil it down into like, kind of one thing is like crazy. But I remember being like, no, this is actually a really good period for us to kind of do it. And then in terms of like how we kind of did it, like for you, because like, did you kind of sit and pick the teams as to who was going to do what?
Oh, wow.
Do you want to talk us through a little bit of that?
Like I said, because I had that space, I really thought when the acquisition happened, I think it's one of those things that it makes you feel like you lose a bit of power. It can make you feel a bit like, oh, hang on, this massive thing has happened to me and I didn't necessarily pick it. And that's not to say it's bad. I think it's been amazing for us, but there was a bit of loss of power and agency for us as a team. So I wanted to make sure that every single person in the business had the chance to touch a piece of this kind of new journey that we're going on. So we set up the 3 working groups, starting with the proposition group, which was us. Then the next one was around visual identity and tone of voice. And then the last one was obviously the website group. So what was interesting about that is that each group has to complete their piece of work to kind of like hand over to the next person. And it's not even really like a baton pass. It was more like that blurring of, okay, we've defined this. Now I need to help you to do your bit. And now I need to help you to do your bit. And it was that, all of those things. But the way we set it up, every single person in the agency did something to make that happen. And I think that's really powerful. And it felt really good. And it meant that when the website launch happened, actually, all of us did that. All of us did it. And that was a really like special moment on that kind of new journey to where we are now.
And then for us as creatives, like, how did we do it? How did we do it? Like, how did we do it? My memory is like, wow. Like,
I know. Well, you briefed us as if you were a client, which I think really worked.
Yeah.
Because that's how we're used to receiving that kind of information. And I think we went straight into kind of separate brainstorming, didn't we?
Yeah.
To kind of get our initial thoughts on the table or on the Miro.
We always kind of went our journeys of being at home, like you said, having a longer experience, having a shorter one. So we needed to kind of go off and be like, this is what home means to me, and well, this is what home means to me. And so we kind of like went off and did that as like a kind of initial, once you kind of, because that brief, once you've got that brief as that guideline, it's also kind of like, we knew that there was something to kind of aim around, but we also knew there was kind of some flex that brief might change as we kind of started writing. But to go off and then do it separately was like a good kind of start. And then, but we always knew we were going to come back together and be like, what have you got? Like, show me what you've got, because I've got this. And
It's great to collaborate because it was quite tricky. Like to get from that, that kind of broad explanation of like who we are, and then to kind of bring it back down to that nutshell statement is tricky. There's a lot to say in 4 or 5 words. And I think for me personally, like describing what I do to other people that don't know what we do has always been quite tricky. Like I end up saying, graphic design or communications, but now we've got that statement that really explains it and makes sense to people that aren't just in the industry.
And we did that research, didn't we? We did that session, as you said, we treated this like a client project. So we got everyone together and we did a bit of research and we asked everyone how they describe what they do in the pub. And we asked everyone, you know, who they wanted to be, where we wanted to go. So I felt like we really mined all of the brains and all of the thinking, and then refined that into the brief. And then, you know, you guys were able to do your creative magic to land on the employee experts and creative culture agency. And I love that because it's so easy to say, I work in a creative culture agency. It means something. And it's, you know, it just does what it says on the tin. Whereas before, I think when we used to say employee experience, so many tech companies have co-opted that term and it's really losing its meaning. So to me, having that little thing in a nutshell has just been really helpful. And it's so easy for me now when I go out and do public speaking, or if I'm doing a pitch, you can just say it and it's in my brain.
Off the tongue,
and I'm not thinking like, what do we do? Even though I know.
Say it really quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's much better.
And also it gives us a ground to be like, this is, as a company, who we are, and we all get to say it, because obviously we have such range of like talent and skill. Like we did need a kind of thing, an umbrella for all of us to be like, this is what we all sit underneath.
The other thing that we built into it that I really liked, and something that I don't think we'd ever really been able to do very successfully before, was that line around better days mean better business. Because we know, and the data shows, that businesses where people are happy or engaged are high performing businesses and they make more money. But it's really hard to get that commercial argument across in a way that feels authentic, in a way that doesn't kind of downgrade the desire to want people to feel good at work, because that's a really noble pursuit in itself. But it's even better when you know that by doing that you're all going to perform and everyone's a winner in that situation. Like we all want to be part of businesses that are thriving, but I don't think we've really articulated that very well before.
And I think for us to be involved in the brand proposition, like two of the creatives, was really special as well. It didn't feel like it was hidden and left to the leadership. Like that kind of style had been scrapped, and that was great.
A big responsibility to be like, go on, tell us how we talk, and I'm like,
And all the other working groups were waiting for us to do it, and they're like, have you done it? We want to get started. And we're like, not yet, give us time.
please.
We need another week. But obviously important to, you know, nail it, and we eventually did, but important to kind of keep that momentum as well. Don't want to take 6 months.
No, absolutely.
Like
Which we
it has
definitely
done
would
in
have
the
done in the past. Yeah.
How easy was it to land on the ideas? It'll be interesting to hear how everybody's experience was on it.
I think I fully enjoyed it. I love to copyright anyway, so I really enjoyed that process. I think it took longer than I thought it was going to do. I thought we were going to sort of smash it out in a couple of days. But then it was just that reworking and making sure that we were kind of saying exactly what we needed to, and think about that kind of aspirational thought as well, not just who we are now, but who we're going to be in 2 years, in 3 years.
I think for me it was a bit of the almost the background work of really honing in on, okay, what is it that we're good at? What is it that we, like, if we could just put it into words? And I think that's where we've landed on this kind of thing of creativity, strategy, experience, and that runs through the way that we're communicating now externally. And once we had that, then I think it was easy to shape ideas and kind of give feedback and kind of make sure that that was really singing through everything that we were saying. But it did take a little bit of time to boil it down, which sounds silly because it's so obvious now. But we hadn't ever spoken in that way, really, about it being those three things. And I think another thing, traditionally, we talked a lot around creativity or strategy, and maybe too much on strategy, I'm not sure. But we never really talked about that experience, and that's actually so fundamental to the way we are, and it's our experience of work, but the experience that we give our clients. Like, clients always say to us that we're an extension of their team, that they look forward to meeting with us, that we've kind of pushed them in the healthy way, or that thanks to the work that we've done, they've progressed their careers. And we know that to be true of us and the experience that we give. And we weren't shouting about it, which seems crazy now, because actually it's such a massive selling point and something that we're really proud of and that our clients are, you know, really appreciative of. So to be able to like really weave that in, I think that feels really good.
Yeah, for me it was a weird one, because it was like I thought we were going to be like, yeah, we're done. But then there's also that like the weight of 40 years worth of knowledge, and then also like, you know, we did know what we were saying, but then we weren't maybe saying it in the way that we wanted to say it. It is like I remember being like, this is a big challenge, like a very big challenge, and it's going to be so interesting because everybody has their own view on what home is to them personally. So it's going to be also kind of making sure that we all feel heard in this. So yes, we're writing it, but we also need to be very aware that like we're talking for everybody at home. So that's quite like a big, I remember being a bit like, this is a big job. Like this is a big job. I think we kept it like to a nice small amount of us to work on it, because if you have too many, you get too many chefs. And it was just like a nice collaborative little kind of group for us to then bounce it around and be like, oh, I like this. Actually, maybe we should say it like this, and being like, yeah, that makes more sense. So actually having that kind of strategy in mind, even though creatively we're quite strategic as well, but actually having somebody who's like a strategist and being like, no, come in and like speak like this, and being like, okay, well, that's cool, but I can write it like this. After like a while, it was like, oh, this isn't actually that daunting, because all we're doing is like, we're like simplifying it and making it nice and being like, this is exactly how we all speak.
I think the sticky bit for me was the word experts. Like, that's big. Are we really going there? And I think it just took that kind of time to define and say, yeah, actually, we're going there. We've got the history, we've got everything to back us up, and we're going to do it. And so that was, making that bold statement was, I think, what we really needed to do.
It's quite empowering though, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be able to say, yeah, we are.
We are, yeah.
So then what was the outcome?
Clarity, I think. I think clarity for us about who we are, where we're going, what we want. I think more ownership from us, feeling that we completed this thing and that we were driving it forward. And then a platform that we could then give to the next working group to do what they wanted to do with the look and feel and tone of voice. So it was a kind of, I think there was like a cultural thing for us where we felt really connected to the future, and it felt like a real kind of moment of energy and drive. And then the tangible thing, which is a brand proposition with like, you know, one-liners, sentences, a framework to work with, the thing.
Yeah, it felt like questions were answered, and we had those statements to work through.
I guess we'll finish on the final question. So what did we need to bring it to life? I think that was essentially identity, didn't we? We needed our words to actually have a look and feel, and actually have punch that matched what we were saying. Because it's a progression, so everything needed to progress with it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It was a bold statement, and it needed a bold brand, and we've certainly ended up with that.
Absolutely. I think the other thing is that it needed like the right attitude from the team. Everyone approaching it with that same energy and that sense of opportunity and what could be. And they absolutely did that too. But, you know, I felt like everyone had the right mindset to get the work done. And without that, you don't get anywhere. So I felt really proud of everyone after everything that had happened and everything we've been through, that everyone could like dig into that and think, actually, yes, I'm really excited about this. I know what my contribution is to this organisation. I know where we're going, and I feel amazing about it. And that's why the work is so good. So there's something around that like mindset and the collaboration of everyone that was massive and made it happen.